Hey, ladies and gentlemen, hey, if you guys are getting anything out of my videos, I sure would appreciate you liking and subscribing. It's about 10 o'clock in Texas right now. And somebody was asking me earlier what's going on with all the sheriff department here in Nacogdoches County, FBI investigations. You know, I said, listen, we got bigger things to deal with right now. I said, y'all ain't listening to what's going on. So I want to play a little bit of this for you.
I'm going to tell you what happened this week, which I think is an absolute game changer for U.S. monetary policy and, frankly, global power structure. You know, we've been talking about the New World Order, what that's going to look like. The United States and the globalists that run the World Economic Forum want what they call a unipolar order, right? One sort of globalist cabal that's running the show. Well, there are other countries that have a different opinion of that and do not believe that we should have a unipolar order. They want a multipolar order, that every country, territory, land, customs, cultures are all different. You're really going to run what happens in Russia and Canada and Brazil with one government run out of Brussels, right? Doesn't make any sense. But that's what the globalists want. They also want a one world sort of digital currency that they control everything. Again, other countries have a different opinion of that, and they don't think that globalists should be running the show. And you're seeing the US dollar in the middle of all of this being crushed as a result. So what happened this week? Well, a couple of big moving pieces. First of all, Moscow was probably the biggest story in the world, but of course the mainstream media in the United States wants you to focus on other stories. They want you to focus on, Donald Trump being arrested or whatever reality TV show issue is going on right now, or the Academy Awards or whatever. No. The biggest story in the world happened in Moscow this week. Chinese President Xi Jinping flew into Moscow, met with Vladimir Putin. They met for 3 days, and they wrote up and documented 14 different signed agreements. 14 of them. They met for hours every day. And when they left, they said, we are about to change the world order, shook hands, and said, goodbye, my friend. It was an unbelievable summit if you're paying attention to what's happening in the world right now. Now, remember about a year ago when President Biden flew into Saudi Arabia and was basically mocked, and when they left, it was well reported that they were laughing at him when he left. He was begging them to not cut production of oil and, create new oil partnerships with the United States. They basically looked right in his face and said, no, we're not going to do that. So what happened this week? Well, these 14 agreements that Vladimir Putin signed with Xi Jinping are about trade, the economy, currency, about military exercises. The list is pretty much endless. New rail infrastructure, trade routes, etc. But to me, the biggest story was about settling oil transactions and making trade transactions settled with the Chinese currency, the yuan, okay, instead of US dollars. The same thing happened in Saudi Arabia this week. Saudi Arabia discussing with China, Saudi Arabia talking with China about settling their oil transactions with the Chinese currency yuan. Okay,
and
so that might not sound like much to the layperson, but when the petrodollar, the US dollar, which is how all oil transactions are settled, now will be upended and removed, and oil will now be settled with the Chinese yuan, that is a game changer. Arguably the biggest story we've seen in decades.
The fact that oil has always been traded in dollars, if that were to end, that would mean the end of the US dollar.
Why is that? The US uses the dollar as a cudgel. It uses it as an axe. It uses it to put sanctions on other countries. Oh, we want you to do this. We want you to act a certain way.
Yeah, exactly.
So we will use the US dollar to sanction you. You want oil?
When are you fools in the government going to learn? When are you going to learn you can't control people? Yeah, I mean, damn.
Well, it's because it's the petrodollar. You want to settle your oil transactions, you have to do it in the US dollar. You better listen to us with our sanctions.
The world's second largest economy and its largest energy exporter are together actively trying to dent the dollar's dominance as the anchor of the international financial system.
Are y'all listening to this?
Will they succeed? The dollar is America's last surviving superpower. It gives Washington unrivaled economic and political
Washington
muscle.
going
It
down.
can slap sanctions on countries unilaterally, which frees that country out of large parts of the world economy. and Washington can spend freely, certain that its
Yeah.
debt will be bought up by the rest of the world.
It's no more
That's
gang
what we do.
stalking.
Now imagine
You ain't
if
gonna
we
have the
remove
money
the
for
US
it no
dollar
more, are you?
from oil transactions. Well, what happens? The US cudgel of sanctions starts to move away, starts to dissolve, and US power is dissolving. And that's why you're seeing this week, over the past 48 hours, the United States ramping up, wanting to increase their military budget by 40% to attack China. These are the words, literally, from our defense secretary, that we're
Idiots.
adding 40% to our defense budget for readying for war with China. This is why. It all comes down to the US dollar. It's about nothing else. It's not about Chinese soldiers showing up in your backyard and trying to steal your, steal your pool toys. No, it's about the economy. It's about the power of the US dollar versus the Chinese yuan. And it's about a new...
Ladies and gentlemen, the United States has been out of control. We see that in the government. We see that in law enforcement. It's corrupt to the core. It says in the Bible, the wings of the eagle are plucked off. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all better turn to God. Y'all better turn to God. You better start getting right. This LGBT crap, these gays everywhere. I mean, who's going to answer for it when Jesus has that old horn blowed? Anyway, y'all do whatever, say whatever you want to say, but yeah, so I mean, out of control. This corruption in this Nacogdoches County alone is out of control. Out of control. I mean, if it's that bad in Nacogdoches County, think about how bad it is in Washington. I seen a picture the other day, Trump. He said, I told you that was as corrupt as hell. He wasn't joking. And now the United States thinks they're going to bully their way, 40% more increase. We'll just destroy China so that we still rule the world. I don't think it's going to work, guys. It's just like that gang stalking program you got. When are y'all going to wake up and learn? When are you going to wake up and learn?